What's going on, everybody? Cleepus Tech here, coming back at you with another video. In this video, we're going to be doing a quick comparison between the T-Mobile Revvl 6 Pro and the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G. Now before we go any further, as always, I do want to remind you to hit that subscribe button, and in case you want to learn more about either phone individually, I will be linking to several other videos about them in the description, as well as some information about pricing, availability, and some of my favorite smartphone accessories. But with that being said, let's get into it. So starting off with the displays, with the T-Mobile Revvl 6 Pro, we're getting a 6.82-inch IPS LCD display with a 720p resolution, a PPI of 263, and an aspect ratio of 20.5 by 9. With the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G, we're getting a 6.5-inch 120Hz Super AMOLED display with a 1080p resolution, a PPI of 405, and an aspect ratio of 20 by 9. As you can clearly see, the T-Mobile Revvl 6 Pro is quite a bit larger, so if you're doing something like reading, for example, you are most likely going to get a better experience with a larger display. In addition to this, with a 20.5 by 9 aspect ratio versus 20 by 9, the Revvl 6 Pro also has a slightly taller and more narrow form factor, so if you're doing something like watching a video in landscape mode, for example, you're going to get a more immersive experience. And if you're doing something like reading, browsing the web, using social media, stuff like that, with a form factor like this, you'll be able to fit more content on the screen without having to scroll as much. On the other hand though, the image quality with the A53 5G is quite a bit better. With the Super AMOLED display, the colors, brightness, and most importantly, the viewing angles are going to be quite a bit better. So if you're outside in the sun, for example, the A53 5G is going to be a lot easier to see. And overall, no matter what you're doing, with a display like this, things are just going to look a lot better. In addition to this, with a 1080p resolution versus only 720p, the A53 5G also has a sharper image, and with a 120Hz refresh rate, the movement on the screen is going to be a little bit faster and smoother, making the A53 5G feel a little bit more premium to use. Now for storage, both phones are getting 128GB with microSD card expansion, so no difference here, but definitely a great amount of storage. Although keep in mind, with the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G, there is an international version that has 256. But for this comparison, since after all, the Revvl 6 Pro is a T-Mobile phone, I am going to be assuming you're considering the US version. But regardless, 128GB is definitely a great amount of storage, so if that is important to you, either phone will be a good choice. For security features, both phones have fingerprint scanners and face unlock. With the T-Mobile Revvl 6 Pro, it's right here on the power key. And with the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G, it's in the display. But starting with the Revvl 6 Pro, let's go ahead and give them a try. There we go, one more time. And there we go. And now for the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G. There we go, one more time. And there we go. So as you can see there, both fingerprint scanners were real fast and responsive. No issues at all. And again, both phones do have face unlock too, so if you want to use that instead, you always can. Taking a look at the camera setups here, with the T-Mobile Revvl 6 Pro, we got a water drop notch design for the front-facing camera. This camera is 16 megapixels. Then on the back, we got a quad camera setup with a 50 megapixel main camera, a 5 megapixel ultra-wide camera, a 2 megapixel macro camera, and a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera. For video, this phone has a max recording quality of 2K in the rear camera and 1080p in the front. With the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G, we got a hole punch design for the front-facing camera. This camera is 32 megapixels. Then on the back, we got a quad camera setup with a 64 megapixel main camera, a 12 megapixel ultra-wide camera, a 5 megapixel macro camera, and a 5 megapixel depth sensing camera. And then for video, this phone has a max recording quality of 4K in both the rear and front cameras. So between the two, both phones have pretty much the same features, including an ultra-wide camera and a macro camera. So if when it comes to the camera, all you really care about is having all the features, you're really not going to go wrong with either phone. That being said though, the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G has quite an advantage in quality. First of all, when it comes to video, again, this phone can record in 4K, whereas with the T-Mobile Revvl 6 Pro, in the rear camera at least, this phone can record in 2K, but that's definitely not nearly as good as 4K. So if you do want to record higher quality videos, the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G will be a better choice. And for the photo quality as well, while the T-Mobile Revvl 6 Pro is definitely not bad, and for more casual use, it will still get the job done, even for stuff like social media, for example. The A53 5G is just on a whole different level, so if you want to get the best photos you can between the two, then the Samsung will have a huge advantage. But again, for more casual use, if you want your pictures to look good, but you still don't really care about having the absolute best quality, the T-Mobile Revvl 6 Pro will again at least get the job done. Now when it comes to RAM and processor, with the T-Mobile Revvl 6 Pro, we're getting 6GB of RAM with the MediaTek Dimensity 700 processor. With the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G, we're also getting 6GB of RAM with the Samsung Exynos 1280. So when it comes to performance in general, neither phone is slow by any means. With the T-Mobile Revvl 6 Pro, for more basic activities like web browsing, social media, streaming content like videos and music and stuff like that, as long as you're not going to be on your phone all day, you will get a pretty good experience here. And again, this phone is not going to feel slow. But that being said, between the two, I would say the Samsung Galaxy A53 A53 5G is quite a bit faster. In fact, even if you're doing more demanding activities, like higher performance mobile gaming, maybe you're playing Call of Duty or something, in that kind of situation, while this phone is still not going to be nearly as fast as an actual flagship phone, for a mid-range phone, it's definitely one of the faster options. So again, in general, between the two, if you want the better performing phone, then the A53 5G will have a huge advantage. But if you just need something basic that works, and you're really more of a moderate user, doing the more basic activities, then again, the performance you get with the T-Mobile Revvl 6 Pro is honestly going to be good enough. Now I did run benchmark tests on these phones using Geekbench 5, and here are the results I got. So again, as you can see here, the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G does have quite an advantage, but again, in my experience, while the T-Mobile Revvl 6 Pro is definitely not as fast, it still isn't a slow phone by any means, and for the average user doing the more moderate basic activities, it will at least get the job done. Now for the batteries, both phones do have 5000 mAh batteries, so definitely great there, with the T-Mobile Revvl 6 Pro supporting 15-watt fast charging, and the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G supporting 25. Also keep in mind, the T-Mobile Revvl 6 Pro does actually have wireless charging, whereas the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G doesn't. So in general, with these phones, you can expect to get great battery life and longevity, and if that's really a priority for you, you really won't go wrong either way. But that being said, if you want better fast charging, then of course, the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G with, again, 25-watt fast charging versus only 15 with the T-Mobile Revvl 6 Pro will have a bit of an advantage. But if you want wireless charging, then the T-Mobile Revvl 6 Pro might be a better choice. Now, as far as the software goes, the T-Mobile Revvl 6 Pro does have Android 12, which is definitely not bad, but with the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G, this phone does have Android 13, and seeing as it is a Samsung, you can also expect to see several other major updates with it as well. So in general, on one hand, the T-Mobile Revvl 6 Pro isn't really bad. I mean, Android 12 is decently new, and for a really entry-level phone, most phones in this price range are going to have the same kind of thing. But if the software is really important to you, if you like to have the latest version of Android, then of course, the A53 5G is going to be a much better choice. Another thing to keep in mind is that both phones do have NFC, so if you like to make contactless mobile payments using Tap and Pay, you'll be happy to know you can do this with either phone. But in conclusion, which phone is better? In general, the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G, being a higher-end device to begin with, is definitely the better phone here. And if you're looking for a display with a much higher image quality, a camera that takes much better photos, and can record 4K videos, significantly better performance, better fast charging, and better software support, then the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G is going to be a much better option. That being said, if you want a larger display, wireless charging, and you really don't need the extra performance, display quality, or photo quality you get with the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G, then in that case, you're probably going to be perfectly fine with the T-Mobile Revvl 6 Pro. But this concludes my comparison between the T-Mobile Revvl 6 Pro and the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G. Again, in case you want to learn more about either phone individually, I will be linking to several other videos about each of them in the description, as well as some information about pricing, availability, and some of my favorite smartphone accessories. But that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it and found it useful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to follow Kalipis Tech on Twitter and Instagram. And as always, I will see you in the next video.